So good evening, everybody. So my name's Margie, and so tonight I'll give a bit of a talk, and then we'll do some meditations together. So we'll just take a few minutes before we start to relax. Some deep breaths, and you can set your intention for being here tonight, or go for refuge if you're a Buddhist. You know, that you're here to listen and to benefit yourself and others. That you'll have an opened and relaxed mind. Yeah, and your ultimate intention for being here is to benefit yourself, but also all beings, to bring more peace into the world. Or you can go for refuge from a Buddhist to the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. So tonight we'll talk more about meditation and talk more about our mind and how meditation helps our minds and how we can help our life and be more happy through meditation. So really, meditation is really about the mind. And we all have a mind, obviously. But one thing we have to come to understand is that it is our mind that is the source of our happiness and our suffering. So, that's something individually you all have to understand and how their meditation can help increase that happiness for you. So all of us have some control over our minds. And I guess it's about learning how much control we really have and learning, well, what does control over our minds mean? Sometimes we lose control. Sometimes we have a lot of control. So it does change. So the idea of meditation is really to get more control over your mind, to learn about your mind, and to then really be able to work directly with your mind. And control is an interesting concept. So what do we mean about control? So from my point of view, what I'm talking about tonight is our minds are sort of driven. Our minds are innately driven to pursue happiness and avoid suffering. So they're innately. We don't have to think. We don't get up in the morning and think, oh, I'm here to pursue my happiness and I'm here to avoid my suffering. We don't set that intention, but so innately we get up. We certainly don't get up in the morning, if you think about it, and think, oh, I really want to suffer today and I really don't want to be happy. So you have to really look at what are the drivers of your mind. And so we don't do that consciously. It's a very innate, and all of us have those same drivers operating innately. And I guess, we kind of accept that because it's innate. We don't know, it's just our drivers, and our mind just kind of goes to work. And then we set about engaging with the external world because our minds believe 100% that our happiness is external and our suffering is external. So we've totally externalized everything. And so our externalization of our happiness and suffering is all about, then, we have a very strong belief, innate, that material possessions and wealth bring happiness. And again, this isn't something we do intellectualize that, and we do reinforce that all the time, but it's sort of this innate belief that material possessions, material experiences are a source of happiness. And innately we believe wealth and status and power, praise, all of those things, again, it's totally external, because you have to have status in the eyes of others. You have to have status within institutions with which we live in. So and this is, really a driver for us. Also, we always believe that even personal praise, even if we don't have a lot of status, a lot of fame, even if we think, oh, well, that's not me, but we do strive for status even within our friendship groups or within our workplaces or wherever we are. But then it's personal praise. We're driven by personal praise. We think that if I get personal praise, that's happiness. And the other way we get happiness is through the experience of our senses. Taste, touch, sight, hearing, music, whatever sensual pleasures that come through from external through our sense organs, sense faculties. So there's a myriad of external factors, conditions, where we spend our lives looking for happiness, searching. In some way, every day we are in the pursuit of one or all of those factors. We don't think about it, or sometimes we do, but we don't have to think about it. All of those things are drivers. And then on the flip side of that, if we lose it, status, if we lose wealth, if we lose possessions, if we get criticised, if we don't get the level of praise expected, if the sensual pleasures don't live up to our expectations or somehow didn't happen, then we call that suffering and distress. So, and then so then we cause this suffering. So in a way, this is what we mean when we say we lose control of our mind. Because our minds are caught up in this, continually on this treadmill of searching for an absolute, true, external source of happiness. That's what we engage in every day. That's our expectation. And when it doesn't live up to our expectation, that's the flip side, the unhappiness. And then we have the internal dialogue that goes with it, is that, oh, I'm great, or I'm not great, or I'm not good enough, all of those things that we worry what others will think about us. We get highly competitive. We get angry when we don't get something, or when someone takes something that was rightfully ours, when the world doesn't live up to our expectations. So all of the other sort of mental states will derive from that kind of always seeking external sources of happiness. So I think we'll just spend a minute or so, just contemplate that for yourself, because it's really something you have to really understand in your own life, How are you just innately driven, or, did you have an experience last week, this week, today, when someone criticised you, when it was really caused you misery, caused you to be upset, caused you to feel terrible, Are you always thinking, how can I get that? How am I going to do this? Or I'm not happy with, They are drivers, innate kind of drivers within you. So it's really so let's just spend a few minutes just thinking about that. And so you might thought in your contemplation, well, we do need a level of material need. We have a level of material needs to be happy. We do need a level of wealth. And it's nice to connect with people and get praise or get feedback or have some fun, listen to music, all of the things I said. And that's true. It's not like that isn't true. But are those things the absolute source of your happiness? Or what else is going on with those things? Because if they were the absolute source of your happiness, say to have a certain status level, when you achieved it, you would be totally happy. If wealth was absolutely, truly a source of happiness, then every person over a certain wealth level in the world would be absolutely happy. If praise was what made your day and then you could hang your hat on that praise for the rest of your life, then the bit of praise we received whenever would continue to give us that source of happiness. So yes, we can enjoy music, we can enjoy levels of, status or work and get some reward, level of material comfort. All of those things bring a level of happiness. But why is it that they don't always bring a level of happiness? Why is that they also, without them, they bring such distress? Why are they infallible? Even though we hang so much, we put so much on them to please us, to bring us happiness. But why? That's really the question then. Is it the object's fault, or is it something happening in our mind? And again, that sort of is the point that needs to be investigated. If wealth was the absolute source of happiness, then once you got it, you would absolutely be happy. And we know in the West we are materially very happy, and I'm sure everybody in this room has a level of material happiness that theoretically we should be very happy with. So there must be something going on else. There's something else going on in our minds. Because it's, we can't say that the external thing to our mind is at fault. Possibly it's something happening within our mind. So, when we think about wanting happiness, and we all deserve to be happy, everybody does deserve to be happy, and everybody has got the potential to be happy. We all have potential to be happy, and we all 100% deserve to be happy. Absolutely. So, we have to think then, what is going on? If we've got the potential and we deserve it, and we have a certain amount of good conditions in our life, so what else is going on? What's the problem here? Why are we continually in this state of this sort of, sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low, but there's this sort of dissatisfaction? It's a theme that runs through our lives, or through many of our lives. I can't speak for everyone, but again, we don't wake up in the morning thinking, gee, I want to be dissatisfied today. But sometimes we wake up in the morning and think, oh, another day. So what's going on? So when we really, really want to be happy, and we really think that thing out there that's going to make me happy, it's that level of attachment and craving and grasping in our mind. It's that holding on to the unrealistic expectation and then chasing a level of happiness that we've created within our mind stream. This idea of happiness that we project out, and then we crave and we grasp onto it. And it may be based on a previous experience of happiness that we had, and then we still hold on to that. We crave that, we grasp for it, and we become very attached to that. And then we can project that out onto anything. And that kind of mind, that's the kind of mind that we have to really investigate and really be aware of. Because if we keep feeding that kind of attachment, craving, grasping mind, if we're feeding that, it doesn't matter what we have. No matter how much money we have, it will never be enough. Because we've got a thing that says wealth is going to make me happy, and I'm attached to that idea of wealth. But that attachment itself is forming this idea that whatever you have is not enough, because it's craving and it's grasping for more. So you have to be really aware of what are the mind states that you're generating in your mind. Because that's what's happened. That's what you have to try and investigate and see, is that's what's happening. Because we think, if I get this, I will be happy. I will be this. I will have, and it often is about status. We don't know that it's about status, but I will be seen to be, or I will have achieved this. And it's that trying to reinforce this idea of ourselves and this idea of what happiness is. It's actually not the feeling of happiness, it's actually this idea of, if I have, I will be. I'm not enough, so I need. So they're really the minds of attachment and grasping and craving. It's overlaid with this idea of, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if, I'll be happy because. So actually happiness is kind of off the side there, and you're caught up in these projections of if and when, and if I have, if I get. And then you get that, and then you quickly, your mind's already, that attachment, that craving, grasping's already moved on to the next. So we don't even skip a beat. Then we're on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, And really, consumerism takes great advantages of this. We all know the fashion cycles, or we all know the phones. Everybody has a phone, but they need that phone, or whatever it is. There's, anything you can think of. It's the next, it's the next, it's the next. So we may have believed having that phone brings a level of happiness, be that status. Or be that there's a level of status, I guess, if you have the latest phone. But the happiness is very fleeting, and the happiness actually doesn't come from the phone. It might come from a kind of self-fulfilled instant of gratification. But is that happiness? So we have to think, we all want to be happy, we all deserve to be happy, but is what we're chasing really happiness? Or are we a bit confused? Are we caught up by the attachment because we had an experience, a nice feedback, and now we've become attached to gaining that feedback? And we're mistaking that for happiness, and then we're building more attachment and craving and grasping. And our minds are basically out of control. Because we're not aware of it. All we're innately thinking is, I want to be happy and I don't want to be suffer. So we just kind of on the merry-go-round, really. And we may sometimes feel not very happy or satisfied. We might have a lot of dissatisfaction. Because really, in a way, that's what we're kind of producing, is really just dissatisfaction. So we sweep that aside and we jump to the next big thing, or the next activity, or the next sensual pleasure, or the next on our pursuit of happiness. And so these are the things that, in meditation we can examine to see if that is true, Also, these minds, they can, if they're really out of control, we do actually become either quite dissatisfied, or we can be happy for a time until all of those external conditions change. And for whatever reason, they start to let us down, and then we can become all of that idea of that external happiness projected out. We really don't have a lot of control over them either. We try to control outwards, but actually we have no control. We think we have no control of our mind, but actually we can get a lot of control over our own mind. And we think we can control external circumstances. If I be nice to that person, if I work hard, if I do that, if I save this, if I do that, I'm navigating life. I'm on top of life. We think we're controlling, and we have a lot of power to control external. But actually we don't. We don't actually have much control. And if we think we have a lot of control over external, I think that's, we saw with some of the resilience level with the pandemic. It was probably a time where we collectively felt quite out of control. A lot of uncertainty. And if you've got a whole lot of external projections that you have a lot of control in your world, and then something comes up and says, no, you don't. Our minds feel even more out of control, because we haven't been working on controlling what we can control, which is our own mind, and we actually can't control external circumstances. Again, even our control, we believe we can. We believe we can. And to some degree we can, but actually we don't have much control at all externally. No, we don't know how people are going to really react, we only think we do. Or we try and manipulate situations to suit ourselves, but things will change. Things are always going to change. People are always going to make their own decisions or do their own things. Good things will happen, bad things will happen. There's so many factors externally. We may get sick, we may not get sick, we may die. There's so much we can't control. But one thing we can learn to control is actually our own mind and our own responses and our own beliefs in how we interact with the world. What is really happiness? Where can I put my energy into pursuing happiness? And so in a way then, if we let go of trying to control the external, and we try and control the level of attachment and grasping and craving within our mind, our minds will naturally feel more contented. And then we can release a lot of that control and trying to gain happiness through things that actually aren't going to give us real happiness. And then things will come, life will happen, and we'll have a much more contented frame of mind, a more settled frame of mind, and actually then happiness from internally will arise. Once the mind calms down and is settled and more contented, that is actually the definition of a happy mind. The mind itself becomes happy. The mind itself becomes stable. And then the mind itself can operate in the world in a much more realistic way. You know, has less expectations. You know, so can enjoy essential pleasures, whatever they are, but for what they are, not for what you need them to be, hope them to be, expect them to be. You know, not for the level of happiness they need to deliver you, just for themselves. And in themselves, music or, you know, food or things are pleasant. You know. But it's when we overlay them with this whole expectation, they have to make me happy, they have to give me this level of satisfaction or status. That's when it becomes much harder to deliver that happiness. You know, our mind is so caught up in projecting so much on top of it. You know. So, you know, and really that is really the point of when we do meditation, is to really, you know, all of these minds we're talking about are conceptual minds, and attachment and craving and grasping can become very coarse conceptual minds, and they will cause some disturbance within our mind stream, you know. And like I said, then you build it so much up, if it doesn't deliver, you know, we can then come down, and then it's feeling of depressed, you know. Then we become overexcited, and then we're overexcited, and then we're down, you know. So we're very much at the sway then. Our mind becomes very much in this sort of up and down, up and down. And the conceptions churn. And that's what I mean by lack of control. You know, we're jumping to one thought to the other, to one thing to the other, one experience to the other. And we're tying ourselves up in knots. So this is really our aim in meditation, is to really start to really calm down those minds, and to sit with our mind, and to start to lessen those conceptual minds. You know, and over time, you know, the natural happiness, the natural state of the mind itself, once they're calmed down, is a place of happiness, you know. And one thing, I guess, and look, this all takes time. I mean, again, meditation is really like, you know, the drip in the bucket, you know. We've been so caught up in our minds, in our this pursuit of happiness, whatever it is for us. We get so caught up in it. You know, it takes time to start to unravel, and to start to see, and to start to move away and get some distance, to give yourself a bit of distance from that, and to relate to the world in a different way. And even in meditation, when we first start meditating, we'll think we're doing it wrong, because our minds will be so busy, we'll be overwhelmed with thoughts and feelings or what's going on. And that's because we've never taken the time to stop and look and experience the mind. You know. And, you know, so that's nothing wrong with the mind. It's not a judgment thing. It's just the state of your mind. And that's you going, oh, that's sort of how my mind is now, you know. So, you know, we are so much better off just seeing things with meditation moving like a drip in a bucket. We just think that bucket's never going to fill. If you stand there watching it, it will never fill. You know, but if you have a leaking tap, you come back in a couple of hours, that bucket will be full. Just a drop at a time. And that's really how we work with our minds. We can't wake up one day and think, oh yeah, I heard this thing. Oh yeah, I'm just going to change my mind. The whole way I innately think I am in the world, you know. Our minds won't work like that. We've got such deep ingrained patterns and habits, you know. So we have to really be kind to ourselves, you know, and start to recognise, oh, okay, that is me. I'm more worried about, you know, I need this to feel this, you know. Even if we recognise that, and if I get this, I feel that is me buying into some level of status, you know. Even recognising that doesn't mean, you know, or even recognising I didn't get that, or that person didn't praise me and I got really offended. Even recognising that you got offended rather than being offended, you still might be offended, but even recognising, oh, I got really offended then. That's like the drop in the bucket. You know, that's a win. It's not like all of a sudden we can say, oh, I've never been offended again because I heard this great talk. You know, it doesn't work like that. It takes a long, long, long time to change our minds, to change our patterns. And that's okay, that's just how it is. But a drop in the bucket, you know, it will quickly add up to a full bucket over time, you know. So our minds just don't switch. I just want to be happy now, and our minds don't work that way. I'm just going to change the way I think or the way I've been acting all these many years. No, we have to first just recognise, and step by step, just consistent and small change over time is really the best way to go. There is no real magic bullet. You know, we're habituated beings. Those neural pathways are so laid down. You know, but again, like exercise, if we thought we were going to run a marathon and I never jog in my life, if I thought I was going to run a marathon tomorrow because I thought that was going to be a great idea, you know, I just couldn't do it. I'd have to have months and months and months and months and months of training, you know, just to run it. I probably could never do it anyway, bad example. But, you know, whatever you need to do, you need to train and you need to work at. But also the little bit for working with the mind, small and steady is really the way to get results. You know, you can't crash diet, big change mentally. You know, this isn't, because again, like a crash diet, it will work and then it will fling back. Your old habits will come back and then you'll up and down. So when we work with our mind, we always have to be kind to ourselves and never ever beat ourselves up. Oh, I got so caught up in that, or I felt really bad about that, or that person criticised me, or I was actually really rude to that person, you know, and then I'm unhappy. Even if we're recognising, you know, how did we project out onto an external situation and expect to get some level of happiness that kind of failed us, or when we get very disappointed and upset or angry, if we try and have a look, what projection, how was I projecting from that point of view? What was I after? You know, what was it? Recognition? Was it some status? Was I after wealth? You know, what am I after here? That was a little bit unrealistic. That was more ego-driven by me, you know. And just recognising that, even that recognition of it, will mean that next time you'll recognise it again. Then you'll recognise it again. Then you'll recognise it before you do it. Then you'll see the object and you'll think, hold on, I'm just going to walk away. Then, you know, it takes a lot of practice, a lot of time. Or you'll do something and you'll get upset and you'll think, I'm just going to sit and think about this. What is going on here? So it's just that little chip at a time, little habits, changing mental habits, changing the way you view external objects. You know, am I trying to be too controlling on that external situation? How realistic is that? Am I trying to line up everyone and play everyone in the room so I am in a position that I want to be? What am I hoping to get out of that? Is that really realistic? Sit down and think about those things, analyse. And it's just slowly, 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 from a sutra point of view, they say it takes a Buddha 3 great eons, and an eon's like 1 trillion years. So, to become perfect, it takes many, many, many lifetimes, many, many, many years. So again, don't be hard on yourself. What you're trying to do is train your mind to have more control over your mind, to have more control over how you interact in the world and your expectations of the world. Where you're seeking your happiness from, And it's about that slowly, and trying to then sit with your mind and then allow your mind to be calm, and for those conceptual minds to lessen. And really what you want to experience is the clarity of your mind. But it will take time, because our minds aren't used to that. It does take time. But every little drip is going in a direction. It's filling that bucket, and it all brings some level of inner satisfaction. It all brings satisfaction, because we know we're helping ourselves. We're taking control of our life, because we're taking control of our mind. So I thought tonight we could do a couple of meditations. So first we'll try and just settle our mind, and then we'll do a mental contemplation, meditation on the mind. So we'll just do a breathing meditation first. So in a way, this is just to try and lessen those conceptual states of mind. If you've had a busy day, with lots of thinking, lots of activity, so our mind's, not ready to meditate necessarily. It's good to settle the mind. And breathing meditation's a really good one. So if you try and get to 21 breaths, and the idea is that our mind often likes to anchor itself to something. So our mind is always used to an object. It always has an object. And often it's our thoughts, or it's what we're doing, or what we think. Often there's always an object in the mind. So with the breathing meditation, you anchor your mind to the breath. And that really helps calm your mind, because it's not a heavily conceptual object, and it's clear. It has no colour. It has no actual physicality. So it's a very nice, open way to anchor the mind, but also a very unobtrusive object for the mind. So just try and feel and it's a conceptual mind, so it's the mental image of your breath coming and going from your nostrils. And when you do meditation, the breath should be really, really soft, so no forced breath. Really, really soft breath. You shouldn't hear it. All you should do is gently feel it on your nostrils, and you hold that image of your breath passing through, in and out of the nostrils. And you count to 21. 21 breaths in, 21 and out. if you find yourself getting very, very distracted, by the time you get to 6 or 7 or whatever it is, your mind's gone off on thoughts and you're involved. That's okay. Just go back to the start and start again. And that way you'll know how your meditation's going each time, because you'll naturally see how your concentration, what level of your concentration has. And you use your mindfulness. So use your mindfulness to keep your mind on your breath. So mindfulness is a mental factor. It's a part of your mind that can watch, that pays attention. So it's really, paying attention to what's going on, with the intention that for the next few minutes my mind will stay on my breath, and I'll put my concentration to the tip of my nostrils, and I will count the in and out breaths. Also, by setting a really, really firm intention, that helps your mind think, yes, I know what my object is. So your mind always wants an object. So really set that intention. That is what I'm going to do. It's going to be for a few minutes. And so set your mind up, and get your mindfulness, that attention. And that attention has to pick you up when your mind says, other part of your mind says, no, I want to think about this. No, I want to do that. No, that person really annoyed me and I'm still thinking about it today. Oh, I'm really worried about that. That's what your mindfulness picks up. That's what you're waiting for. And then you say, oh, back on the breath. Now we'll come out of that meditation. Now we've just had the breath as the object of our meditation. So the next one, try and put your attention and keep your and be mindful, and this time place it on the mind itself. Now when we place it on the mind itself, the thoughts will naturally come and they naturally go. So that's, thoughts are part of our mind. They come out of our mind, they rise up, and then they will disintegrate. So that's okay, don't try and stop your thoughts. We don't have to try and stop our thoughts. Our thoughts will naturally disintegrate. A thought comes and a thought goes. Actually, a thought is a very transient thing. It's an impermanent, very transient phenomena. It will never stay long, and it is part of our mind, and it will disintegrate, dissolved back. There's nothing from the thought side that remains. It's a function of our mind to think, to conceptualize. We often, not only externally do we put a whole lot of expectation and inherentness of thingness, but even to our thoughts and our mind itself. So, this time we rest our attention onto our mind, and then we allow our thoughts just to do their thing. They come and they go. And you can notice them coming and they're going. But, if you find yourself engaging in a thought because it's got its attachment part of it, or a craving part of it, or a grasping part, so it's got you in its little conversation, its little drama, again, notice that's where you've gone, and then pull yourself, just let it go. And again, just be with your mind, and the thoughts themselves are just thoughts. That's what your mind does. That's really what our minds are, thinking machines. So don't worry about that. Now just spend some time reflecting on your meditation. So come out of your meditation, and it's good to just reflect on it. So if you did get caught up in your thoughts, that's okay, that's fine. Another trick to do sometimes is then to really focus on them, and then focus on them and see what happens to them. Because you'll find that if you try and then actually observe really closely that thought, it will actually abide of its own accord. So you stop chasing the one after the other, and then you try and penetrate that one, and then it will naturally dissipate. So just, reflect what you learnt about your mind. And just now imagine yourself surrounded by all sentient beings, your loved ones, and people you don't know and people you don't like, all spread around you. Imagine white light is coming from above you, and it enters into through your crown, and all the beings around you, it enters into their crown. And it completely fills you with white light. And when it completely fills your heart, spontaneously that white light bursts out of your heart, and it goes out to all beings, rays and rays of light, endless, inexhaustible, and it blesses them, makes them feel happy. And it's rays of light coming from all enlightened beings, or universal love, or whatever. Just the universal mind itself. Enlightened mind or energy. It's coming down through your crown into your heart. And completely feel happy. Feel your body is like crystal, and the light completely fills it. Of a craving and attachment, grasping, totally dissolves. Those gross conceptual minds totally dissolve. And just sit there feeling happy, relaxed, full of light, and that light going out to all beings from your heart. And it's inexhaustible. It completely replenishes itself. There's no limit. So it can go to all beings, and actually as it goes out, it increases more. It's ever increasing. And the more it goes out, the happier you feel. And the light entering into your crown chakra, again, inexhaustible. There's no limit. It's pure energy, love, light. Now you can pull that energy back into your heart. All the energy coming out of your heart can come back into your heart. And just sit feeling your heart chakras open. You feel connected to yourself and others. I feel happy about your meditation. It was a drop in the bucket. It's your personal practice, your engagement with your wisdom mind. So feel really good and pleased with yourself, happy. And start to think maybe happiness does come from within rather than from external. Okay, when you're ready, you can come out of your meditation. So, does anyone have any questions? Oh, sorry, yep.
I piqued my interest a little bit when you were talking about music as an external stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I never thought of it as having potentially negative connotations to the extent that one might become reminded of. Yes, I always think of music as positive.
Yeah. Mm.
Potential with some of this art and music, there to be some negative aspects to that.
Yeah.
With their externality.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to me it's kind of, music in itself isn't the fault, so music is just music, and it is a sensation, it's essential, it's something we experience through our senses. But, if your neighbour plays music you really don't like for 24 hours really loudly, tell me music is not causing you suffering.
That's definitely unquestionably negative.
Yeah, there you go. Is there not a tortured artist? There's lots of examples where, yeah. So, music is something that brings us pleasure, no doubt. Music brings us pleasure. It doesn't mean it brings us pleasure all of the time, or that the pleasure it brings is going to be in itself lasting or all of the time satisfactory. And look, it may be one of our go-to relaxing things. I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy music and it be one of your go-to relaxed things at the end of a busy day. I guess, if you believe that music is going to deliver you every bit of happiness and it does that all of the time, then that's great. But it probably doesn't. Do you know what I mean? It's just...
Yeah, I guess my own
Mm-hmm.
creates this perceived need that others might have to have the latest
Yeah, yeah.
latest kind of experience. But I find myself sometimes listening to the radio thinking that, there's just so much music out there, and it's so easy for spaces these days. We don't really need anything to some extent.
Sorry, I can't.
There's no great need for lots of new music, and it's artificial, construct basically.
Yeah.
Always producing material.
Yeah, again, though, if you played the one song, if we only had one song and you played it all the time, you'd probably get sick of it. You know what I mean? So you've got to think, is the music always going to deliver you a level of mental happiness that you expect it to deliver? Like you said, if you only had one song, would you need two songs? If you had two, would you need three? If it was too soft, would you need it louder? If there was an instrument missing or if that played, there's lots of reasons why music may or may not always deliver the happiness you expect it to deliver. That's really the point. It's not the point of music, it's the point of how you interact with that music, Yeah, and exactly, the music industry has a churn and it then exploits people because people are after success or fame or status, and they're commercial commodity to manipulate, and that is all of the attachment, grasping, craving in our minds that we set it up to do. So that is part of that problem. Those things come from somebody's mind, But if you personally happen to engage music only in a positive way, there's nothing wrong with that. That's good, that's good for you. But if you want to hold that music in itself, it inherently only has good qualities, well, then that's a debate you might want to have.
Interesting concept.
Yeah. It's Buddhism is really about debate and about applying logic and then seeing how it holds for you. And it is that personal journey. You don't have to believe. For you, music may be, and like I said, that's really great. A nice warm bath, putting on music. There's nothing wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Not at all. Not saying anything wrong with that. It's when our minds get in a thing of, I need more, I must go to this, must do this, it must do that, or it can't do this, or it can't do that, that's more the problem.
I missed your name at the start.
Margie.
Margie, thanks, Margie. Thanks for your energy and your time tonight.
Thank you.
You just said something about Tibetan Buddhism being about logic and the application of logic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been many years since I sat in this room, decades.
Yeah.
And I remember in my 20s feeling that as a practice it was very logical and very much in the head. I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
mindful, of course, but also a little bit, for me, at 20-something, a little bit too much in the head.
Yep.
And I still noticed that in me.
Yeah.
That was my reaction to how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't until you dropped into the feeling of what is available for me in this moment, in the white light, coming to the crown chakra, which I can feel rather than think about, simply feel, and feel that emanating out to all sentient beings, that I really connect back to the places that connected me here in the first place years ago. And I just wanted to offer that to the group, and how beautiful just feeling rather than thinking or being mindful or analysing anything can be, and just how powerful that can be.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point. And I agree. I think, the logic is about our conceptual minds, because our minds are so conceptual, and we need that logic to test and prove, is this true, is it not true? But, I'm the same. I'm a very in-the-head person, and I can I can get too in my head, and so I think you're right. Sometimes for me, those meditations with the white light, you know, are really the most powerful. And they are. And that's, you know, and I always wonder about doing them. Do people think they're a bit too, you know, hippie trippy? I don't know. But, you know, really the light and that energy is really the most profound and the most cut through energy, because it's meant to be the non-conceptual, the bliss void. It's meant to be the mind at its most enlightened energy. You know, to understand that and to get there, you need to work with our gross conceptual minds, and we slowly work down to that. But that's why they're very powerful, because that energy is very, very cuts through all of our heavy conceptual minds. But you kind of need both to understand. But yeah, I agree that having, you know, doing those meditations, and they're very simple because they really cut through a lot of those heavy conceptual minds that we have. But we do. The logic is fantastic for, you know, controlling some of those thoughts and some of those wrong thoughts that we may have, you know, or to testing them out, or, you know. But yeah, and everybody's path is different, you know. Everybody has to do what, you know, works for them, really, what suits you, what makes you happy. All right, any more questions? We have gone a bit over. Okay, thanks everybody for your time, for coming along. And then next month is Alice Andrews will be doing next month. So thank you, it's been great. Enjoyed teaching everybody, and yeah, see you around.
Thank you.
See you, bye-bye.